Hey there, my name is Daniela. I am a licensed therapist and I've been practicing in the mental health field for the last 6 years. I'm here to tell you more about mental health tips, personal development, self-improvement, have real talks, and there's going to be some traveling here and there, but definitely less since I am expecting a baby. That being said, today we're going to talk about my favorite topic lately, and that is pregnancy. Of course, there's so much to talk about. So I wanted to make this video and call it when nobody tells you about pregnancy, or when nobody tells you about the first trimester. However, I wanted to be fair to my fellow YouTubers, and I did some research and found out that it's true. There's people out there giving you good information and talking loads about their personal experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and continue that tone, but maybe be a bit more unfiltered to take it to the next level. Let's see. But since this video is going to be very loaded, informative, and therefore long, I'm going to start right now. The first trimester goes from week 0 to week 12 and a half maybe. Day 1 of your first trimester starts on the first day of your last or most recent period. You cannot forget this day because all doctors and everyone that has to do with your pregnancy is going to ask you about your last menstrual period, LMP. To me, this concept of using my first day of pregnancy as the first day of my last menstrual period was a little bit strange because there's nothing baby related going on your first day of your period. I mean, it's a complete opposite. You didn't have a pregnancy. In my case, my first day of my last menstrual period was July 12th, but we didn't conceive, or we didn't do the thing until July 24th. So I was like, wait, it should be July 24th. I know for a fact that that was the day. And doctors were like, no, we don't use that. And I'll tell you why. I think this is very important to know. So this is how everything happens. First day of your period, you are releasing all of that unused lining stuff that doesn't serve you anymore, but then the whole reproductive system gets ready at that time to start the ovulation process. The ovulation process takes about like 5 to 6, 7 days, and that will be your window of fertility because your body is getting ready to release the most healthy and mature egg that you have and have it wait there. So then dedicated sperm can come and fertilize it, and then you have a beautiful egg, a fertilized egg. This whole process happens in a window of about 3 weeks. So when you are 5 weeks pregnant, really you are 1.5 to 2 weeks from the time that you actually conceived the baby. For example, I know for a fact that the physical interaction happened on July 24th, but sperm lives in your system for up to 5 days. It's still livable and, you know, running around or swimming around, I guess. So there's really no way to know exactly when that action happens of the sperm fertilizing your egg. It can take, as I said, up to 5 days. To break it down into simple statements, week 0 period begins. Week 1 ovulation process, hopefully also sexual action happens. Week 2 fertilization and creation of the cells and moving from the fallopian tubes all the way to uterus. Week 3 implantation. The implantation process is super interesting because imagine your egg was fertilized, it comes down to your uterus, and then it tries to hatch or attach to a zone in your uterus to then start the whole baby creation process. This is the week when women usually feel symptoms. These are the very first signs of something odd happening in your body. Some women report that they have a very light spotting, that it's more like a blush, rose, dusty pink. It's not a bright red, and it's not a lot, and it does cause some cramping. It can also cause some breast tenderness or discomfort, and definitely some mood changes. If you think about it, this sounds so much like PMSing, and you are on your week 3 of your cycle, meaning that soon enough you're supposed to have a period, right? Honestly, it's very confusing. Most people think that they're just PMSing, and that's what I thought. If you read my notes from that week, they were terrifying. I was really thinking that my brain broke, that I was absolutely depressed and I had to go to a psychiatrist and get medication because I felt broken inside. I would cry like twice a day. Literally, I will come downstairs to have lunch and I would be crying. But the mood changes are a good thing. It means that you are producing more of this pregnancy hormone, HCG, which is the one that comes out positive on your pregnancy test. So you really want to be moody and hormonal, because then, you know, that kind of means that your pregnancy test is more likely to come out very clear for a positive. Most people, especially if you're not trying to conceive a baby, or you know, you didn't think that something may have happened, don't really do a test during this week. They do it maybe the week after or the week after because they had a missed period. So now it's like, wow, I had all of this crazy PMSing symptoms and I didn't have a period. So there must be a baby inside of me, right? So yes, my test came out positive in the beginning of week 5, but the lines were very light. So we were actually very confused. It's funny because we didn't have like a super exciting reaction. We were more like, are we wrong? Are we confused? Is the test bad? When do we do it again? Do we tell people? Like, are we happy? If it's not true, are we going to be sad? So it was a whole situation of mixed emotions. We literally went to bed in confusion mode. And the next day though, I took another test. Apparently in the morning you have better chances for it to come out darker. So we woke up and I took another test and another one. So I did 2 after I had done 1. And on my 3rd test, it was still super positive. So I shared with my parents. It was super beautiful and exciting. But as soon as the hype came down, I was so much in my head. Is it true that this special test that tells you super early is accurate? Should I get another brand? So I went to the pharmacy and got 2 more boxes with 2 more tests each. And I did them for that night and then the next morning, and I was still extremely anxious. I think that it was such a moment of delusion because we wanted a baby, but we weren't actively looking for a baby. We wanted to find a house. We were looking for a house so we could get married, so we could have babies by the end of the year. We had said we want babies, but by the end of the year. I know I want a baby, but I don't know if I want it now. And I don't know if I'm mature enough to have a baby. By the way, so your doctor, at least here in the US, they won't try and see you or schedule you until you are about 5 to 7 weeks, preferably at week 7, because then they can get a heartbeat as well. I had an appointment scheduled for week 7 and I was only hitting the beginning of week 5. This was terrifying. I could not wait that long. So my friend gave me this marvelous advice of going to an ultrasound clinic. They are not doctors, they're not going to give you medical care, but they do pregnancy massages and they also do the ultrasound. So I went there for an early pregnancy assessment just to see what could happen. And in my mind, I had this idea that I was gonna see a tiny baby. And I get there and there's nothing. I mean, there was something, obviously, because thankfully this baby is growing and is here, but it's just a little ball. I want to show you. So it was this, which it's nothing. It's just like cells. And yeah, I was really disappointed, but the technician told me that implantation had happened and that the sac was in my uterus and everything was fine. After I finished that, I wasn't happy. I was disappointed and confused. This doesn't look like a baby. This seems so weak and fragile. If I do something and it just breaks, I was not having a good time. And then I also thought that it was probably the technician being nice to me, telling me that I was pregnant and confirming it, but it probably wasn't completely real and there was more to wait for. It really didn't register for days. So here comes my first piece of advice to you. Go to these appointments with someone else. Go with company. If you're gonna do a pregnancy test, make sure that there's someone else at home that you can share it with. If you're going to an ultrasound clinic, make sure that you are there with someone else, because my mom was the one that saved me. She was there listening to the technician speak to me, and she was able to reassure me and repeat what the technician said. So in the car, before I had a meltdown, my mom was like, look, you're pregnant. What we saw was normal. The technician explained what it is right now, and that's how it's supposed to be. So we're just gonna take care of you, and we're gonna be happy, and we're going to continue to feed you well and do all the self-care things that you need to do so this baby grows into the baby you're picturing in your head. Moreover, I want to share the recommendations that my ultrasound technician lady gave to me that day. She said, from this moment until when you see your doctor, who's the actual medical provider, make sure that you eliminate weightlifting. I was doing CrossFit at the time, and you know, there are people that still want to continue. This is not a must do, but it's a recommendation. It is a very vulnerable time in your pregnancy, and you don't want to do any extreme activity that's going to cause a miscarriage. She also said, reduce and learn to manage your stress and anxiety. She could tell I was stressed, and I'm a therapist, and that felt weird, but it was true. Eat the recommended foods for pregnant women, so eliminate alcohol, do not do a deli meat, don't do anything that's undercooked, and I wanted to eliminate caffeine as well. But a lot of women still do it, and they're perfectly fine. I eliminated it though because of my stress and anxiety. Stay hydrated, so this is why I'm always with this bottle. She's my best friend. I usually drink 4 of this a day, which I think it's about 4 liters. And most importantly, stop doubting it. You are pregnant. Oh, and a bonus, something else I started doing that I absolutely recommend is that I begin to learn about pregnancy. So I didn't download 1 app, but 3 apps. I still use them. I have Pregnancy Plus, Baby Center, and What to Expect. So yeah, that was the drama of my first 4 weeks of pregnancy. Here comes another important topic. I struggled a lot with fear of judgment because we never announced to our friends or family that we were planning to have a baby or wanted a baby. They kind of knew that we were going to make things more serious, but they didn't know specifically that a baby was part of our plan right now. And I also saw all of my friends around me doing things by the book. So, you know, meeting the person, spending some years together, building a relationship, getting married, and then having kids and all of that. And I have been doing everything all over the place. I didn't want people to look down on me. I didn't want people to think that I was stupid or that this was a mistake, because then that also reassured all of the fears that I had about pregnancy, that I wasn't ready. And at the same time, I felt obligated to tell some people because these are people that love me, that care about me. So recommendation number 2, you are entitled to share your pregnancy with who you want. And once you do that, be clear with your support system about what are your parameters or your boundaries about sharing about your pregnancy. So if you know that mom is a little bird that likes to tell everyone about everything, make sure you tell her like, hey, wait until I share, because you don't want to be overwhelmed with having to talk to people that you don't feel ready to talk to. What made me feel comfortable was to share with my safe people first, so people that I trust, people that are unconditional with me and that love me. And then as weeks went by and my emotionality decreased, I was able to deal better with social interaction, so I would spread the word a little bit more. And definitely I did not post anything on social media or extended family and friends until I felt comfortable, which was pretty much by the time I revealed the gender of my baby. That was when I was 15 or 16 weeks. So I already knew my baby is safe. I did all of my anatomy work, my blood work, and everything came out really good. So I knew I was carrying a healthy baby, and that's when I decided that it was okay for me to share with other people. Also remember to love yourself and your life. There's no right or wrong on how to do life. So the way you're doing it and the way the universe is giving it to you, just take it, enjoy it, and there shouldn't be judgment. And people that judge you maybe are people that don't have your best interest. To talk a little bit more about these ugly thoughts I was having, which I like to call intrusive thoughts. This is a term that comes from psychology, and it's defined as unwanted thoughts that can pop into our heads without warning at any time. They're often repetitive with the same kind of content cropping up again and again, and they can be disturbing or even distressing. This is exactly what I was going through. The intrusive thoughts I had from week 5 all the way to week 10 or 12, so the whole first trimester, they did reduce. They started here and they began to decrease in intensity and frequency as I went through my pregnancy and saw my baby growing healthy. and now I'm obsessed with it. But yes, I think that the themes were related to losing my baby, to not liking my body or not wanting my body to change or grow, wondering if my body could make a healthy baby, wondering if my personality and my attitudes and my behavior were a good match for raising a child. I also had negative thoughts about my partner. I had a lot of envy and sometimes a bit of anger towards him. It's so hard to say because I love him so much, and yeah, oh my God, pregnancy hormones are horrible. I'm getting emotional. But yes, I was feeling really envious because I felt like it wasn't fair that he wasn't going through what I was going through despite of us sharing this baby. He gets to live his life. He gets to go play contact sports. He gets to drink. He gets to have fun. He gets to not have his body change. And I am here suffering for the two of us. So I was really, what's that word? Resentful. I was feeling really resentful towards him. I want to say that I didn't show it in a mean way, but I felt it in my heart a lot, and sometimes I would give some guilt trips. So I have to admit that I did that. So yeah, I did do that. So recommendation number 3, talk to someone, and really seriously do it. Even if you have to pay for it, you need to talk to someone about this. I'll tell you why. Number 1, and most importantly, these bad thoughts can put you at risk for postpartum depression. Postpartum depression sometimes is a buildup. It starts during your pregnancy. You begin to have these really negative thoughts, and then, you know, your hormones get worse after postpartum and more things happen. But this could be one of the factors that causes you to feel a certain way about your baby and your partner. This is one of the things that my therapist told me. She was like, thank you so much for sharing, because now I can follow through your pregnancy and know that these were signs that were happening in the beginning, so we can make connections and help you make sense of what's happening if postpartum depression were to happen. But we also took over and started to do some healing work towards these thoughts, and as I said, that allowed me to decrease the frequency and the intensity of the thoughts of my pregnancy to this point that I barely ever have them. They're more like fleeting thoughts that come. I kind of like catch them and then, whoop, I don't need you. I'm super happy with this baby. Of course, there are moments that you're having a bad time and your therapist can't be there for you. So for that, I did use my partner a lot, and I shared with him that I was having this resentment towards him, that I was feeling really bad about my body. He would reassure me so much, and that helped me. It made me feel stronger. And it also helped me with knowing that I didn't have these secrets with wicked and morbid thoughts, and that it was just more something that I could share with someone and let it out instead of keeping it to myself. Something else that happened during my first trimester was fear of doing things that could harm my baby. So I was hyper alert all the time. Does the food have alcohol? Does that have caffeine? Is that deli meat? If I was working out, I was really in my head and uncomfortable, not enjoying myself. I believe that this goes away as you get used to being pregnant. Remember, if this is your first time being pregnant, it's going to be really difficult to understand everything you're going through and adapt to it, you know, like a queen. It takes some time. It took me some months to really connect that, like, wow, I'm actually pregnant. I think that as you gain understanding that you're pregnant, you gain trust in your body and yourself, and then you begin to feel more intuitive and more comfortable with doing things. But recommendation number 4, go by what your doctor says, and if you don't like what your doctor says, go to another doctor. I had a doctor that was extremely strict. She was like, you can only do fish once a month. Do not eat any of the insects of the sea. They're disgusting. I left that appointment crying. So I changed doctors because I did not want to go to my baby appointment to get stressed out every time and to be overwhelmed with so much negative information. So yeah, that was the terror of my mind during pregnancy. Something that I didn't experience, that's another terror topic, is the nausea and vomiting. This has happened to other people I've talked to that they don't experience it and they feel abnormal or inadequate, and that's also how I felt. If you don't have nausea or vomiting, you're perfectly fine. You are healthy. Just thank God every morning when you wake up that you don't have it. If you do have it, it is really horrible. People lose weight sometimes. They don't want to eat. If they eat, they feel worse, or they throw up. If they don't eat, they feel worse. There's no in between. You're going to have really bad days of feeling sick all the time. What I've heard is that it feels like a continuous hangover that never ends, and there's nothing you can do about it because it just doesn't go away, and you're not even enjoying alcohol. Bizarre, but that's how pregnancy works. Some recommendations for nausea that I've heard about is drink a lot of ginger tea. You can use aromatherapy, definitely eat what your stomach feels like eating, and then do not skip meals. Try to have consistent meals throughout the day. Even if you don't feel like it, you need to have food in your stomach. Let's see, what else? There are other symptoms that I experienced from week 7 to 12 that weren't so horrific. And I think that one was feeling bigger, which was really bloatness. Your body gets filled with a lot of liquids and gas, and I thought that my stomach was already expanding, but it wasn't. It's more of a subjective feeling than what it is real objective growth of your belly. So I would have people telling me, oh, you look the same, or like, have you lost weight? And I felt so big. So this was really frustrating. I think week 10 was really bad with that, and the bad body image symptoms continued a little bit till the beginning of the second trimester. But I have a whole video on this topic about pregnancy and body image, so I'll leave it here in the link so you can click and watch it after this one. I also had stomach problems like heartburn that I still have in the second trimester. My doctor recommended an enema for constipation, and I said, hell no, I'm not gonna do that. And I started doing green smoothies in the morning. This changed my life. Now I am absolutely consistent and fluid and great, and I do not have any constipation issues. So recommendation number 5, if you're having issues with constipation, make sure to add more vegetables and fiber into your diet. And it's great in a smoothie form because a lot of pregnant women don't feel like having vegetables and greens and all that, especially in their first trimester when they're feeling really nauseous. So this smoothie just facilitates having to drink something instead of sitting there with a plate of food that you don't even want to look at. Okay, another symptom, shortness of breath. This is another of my least favorite symptoms because it makes me feel like an old, sick person. I sometimes have shortness of breath by laying on the couch. Some days it feels unbearable, but it really comes and goes. Your sense of smell gets multiplied by 300. I guess that this results into nausea for a lot of people. Overall, I felt fatigued throughout my pregnancy. Sometimes I take naps during the day. I do go to bed around 9:30 and I'm asleep for sure at 10. I'm sleeping like 9 hours and still taking naps. But it's actually great to have an excuse to go to bed early, so yeah, I like that. Oh, extreme hunger, and this is no joke. Before my pregnancy, I did intermittent fasting for like 5 years. My hunger and fullness cues are really extreme. I'm used to eating when I'm extremely hungry and then finishing my meals feeling very, very full. This is not a good combination for pregnancy. I don't think that any pregnant woman out there should be doing intermittent fasting. I have read over and over that breakfast is one of your most important meals, and also your dinner, because sometimes you have cases of pregnant women waking up in the middle of the night and having to do midnight munchies because they are in pain, and I don't think this is healthy for your baby. It's also a big cause of nausea to wait until you're hungry, really hungry to eat. So yeah, waiting until you're very hungry is no good. And you also get really hangry and upset. I have even felt dizzy, I can't speak anymore. But then ending a meal extremely full is not good either. It's funny because something I've experienced is no point of satiation. Sometimes I just eat and eat while pregnant and I feel like I could eat more. And then the aftermath is horrible, like terrible heartburn and not feeling okay, feeling super bloated and full. The perfect balance, recommendation number 6, is to have healthy portions every 3 hours. Start with breakfast and eat every 3 hours. Nourish your body throughout the day. Your baby will thank you. Well, we already talked about tender breasts. Get ready because it only gets worse and worse. Increased urination, which doesn't end on the first trimester either. So all of your organs are changing positions and moving, and I think your bladder just gets smaller and more sensitive. And on top of that, you have to stay very hydrated. So to say the least, you're gonna be in the bathroom a lot. Oh, and about weight gain for the first trimester, I've heard that it's different for every woman. I think that if you are nauseous and vomiting, you're not gonna gain significant weight. You may lose weight, as I said earlier, but I didn't have that. So my weight gain was consistent throughout the first trimester. I'm not exactly sure how much I gained, but I think I gained about 5 to 8 pounds on my first trimester. And then up until now, I have gained 10 pounds, and now is week 18. For some people, this may be a lot. For some people, this may be little. For some people, this may be normal. My doctor says it's perfectly normal. I think that most of my body hasn't changed but my belly, and she tells me that there's a lot of weight in the placenta and the liquids and the baby, so it's not just all me. I have been very lucky not to be craving sweets. I crave more of the savory, healthy foods. I love citrus right now. I am obsessed with raspberries and blueberries. I also love the nuts like peanut butter, almond butter. I'm loving all of the greens. So I've been friends with salads and green smoothies, as I said, and eating a lot of protein. I have been craving more carbs. So there are days throughout the week that I'm craving straight up bread. Like I just want a piece of bread, and I've been giving it to myself. So yeah, those have been my craving. Oh, and craving a lot of cheese, like never before. I want cheese every day. I've been eating cheese every day. So I'm sure that's the one making me gain weight. So yeah, been craving cheese a lot. Well, something that's not necessarily a symptom, but more like a mental adaptation, has been adapting to this new lifestyle, because I was used to being very free and do what I wanted when I wanted it, and now there's another priority, right? In the first trimester, it was really hard to go to social events. My brain wasn't really sharp. I did not have the energy. I did not have the mood to go talk to people, and I definitely didn't have a good time watching people drink while I just have to sit there while they're getting drunk and then not having fun with their intoxication levels. So I didn't want to go out at all in my first trimester. I'm getting better at that, and now I'm excited to go out. Not being able to eat sushi was really hard, and one of the things I told you made me resent my husband. And yeah, overall not feeling myself or my old self. This is me. But it's a different me. It's a pregnant me, and I love it now. But before, it felt like, wow, I don't have the energy to work as much as I'm used to, or I don't feel fun with friends anymore. All of these things made me feel a bit sad, but when I understood that this was just a different lifestyle and that I'd rather have this than anything else, then that helped. Other things that happened during the first trimester, I'm going to give you an overall step-by-step traditional summary. Okay, so you do your at-home pregnancy test, then you go for a confirmation of your pregnancy at your first doctor's appointment. You do a very standardized blood work assessment as well, and then of course urine sample. Then I had a few more appointments where I would just go and answer some questions. I did a pap smear on my second appointment, and I did a nuke assessment. It's a special ultrasound where they measure the nuke of your baby and make sure that it's healthy. And I think that also helps to tell whether your baby's coming with any type of generic abnormalities. And then at the end of week 11, starting week 12, I did the NIPT test. So this is called non-invasive prenatal testing, and is a method of determining the risk that the fetus will be born with certain genetic abnormalities. That's what that test does. They took 10 tubes of blood out of me. I passed out on tube number 7, but I recovered, ate some chocolate, drank some water, and continued and survived. Everything was good. But yes, and I did some really random ultrasounds just to check the heartbeat of the baby, but it wasn't a full one. What else? I think that summarizes the medical appointments and procedures that you do during your first trimester. Well, I've spoken a lot, so I'm going to cut it right here. I do want to make a video about the wonderful things that happen on your first trimester or during your pregnancy, because there definitely have been a lot of happy things. This video may feel very negative, and it's because these are the things that maybe people don't talk about too much. They don't want you to be seen as negative, but honestly, there has been really amazing things that have happened that I wouldn't change for nothing. So I'll probably make a video about that, but if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Goodbye.